Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today is episode 160, and I just want to say I'm really happy to be back here interacting with all of you. I don't have as much time in my life as I used to make episodes, so I end up breaking these episodes up into pieces. Like I get the concept together, and then I go and find all the records on my shelves, which is becoming more and more problematic as my collection increases in size. And then I sit down and listen to the records a few times to make sure that I have my thoughts together for them, and then I finally get to put the episode together. But that's all stretched out over the course of weeks at this point in my life because I just don't have as much time as I used to. But I really do appreciate the interactions that I get from all of you. I'm hoping that the progressive house heads have all come to this episode just based on the title. Today's episode is going to be for Lexicon Avenue, featuring some of their greatest hits. I thought about actually making this into a two-part series because there's so much in the Lexicon Avenue catalog, but for now I think I just have it down to 5 that I really like. But I will say, as in preparation for this episode, I noticed looking at Lexicon Avenue's catalog that they have a section of the catalog with 7 or 8 releases that are just their original productions, and those are all actually really strong. But where Lexicon Avenue really comes, I guess, into their rare form is with their remixes. And I'm just throwing a guess out here. I mean, there are probably 100 Lexicon Avenue remixes if I had to guess. So it's one of those things where I thought I knew their catalog well because I've been listening to progressive house so long, and every once in a while the YouTube algorithm will catch like a blind spot and present one of them to me, and I'm like, I didn't know about this. Right? And then you start listening to it, you're like, why didn't any of my progressive house friends, I have a lot of them at this point, why didn't any of them tell me about this track? Why didn't anybody play this back in the day? And I think it's just because their catalog is so massive. So Lexicon Avenue, huge staple. Anybody that has progressive house in their shelves is bound to have a handful of Lexicon Avenue remixes. They started out in 1999, and it's a trio, and the trio is Chris Scott, Mark Armstrong, and Scott Bradford. And I can tell you, just looking at their Discogs listings only, like who knows what was going down in the studio and who put in the most work and who was the most prolific there, but you could tell just looking at Discogs, right? There's, for Mark and Scott, it's a very short listing. And for Chris Scott, it's like he's like the Oliver Leib of progressive house, where there's aliases, and he was the label boss for Forensic Records, which is a huge progressive label, the one with the like the thumbprint on it. As far as the aliases go, he's in Echo Man. I mean, Echo Man's huge. That's a Satoshi Tomiie project. I believe he was in that. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe it's just Saul. I don't know. But he was in Little Green Men and Lexicon Avenue and a whole host of other projects that I don't have any particular records from. But you'd have to like click through all of them just to try to learn all about what Chris Scott has done. So he seems to be one of those prolific producers that for whatever reason is just like under the radar. He's just like that guy that somehow makes every track sound good that he touches, like a Midas touch for progressive house. So Lexicon Avenue, I mean, just absolutely huge. And I've got together 5 tracks from their catalog. These are all remixes that I think are a pretty good collection of their greatest hits. But I do think it could potentially be a 2-part series because of how deep their catalog is. So let me get started with you here and go through these 5. This was a very recent discovery for me. This is Dave Gahan's Dirty Sticky Floors. This came out in 2003. And I want to say, if I had to pick one year out of progressive house to where, like, if you were going to buy a progressive house record from this year, it has the highest probability of sounding good, I think 2003 is it. It's like 2001, you can still get some sketch sounds from 99 and 2000 that kind of like suck and didn't age well. 2002, if the producers were cutting edge, they were like up on the new wave of sound banks and dark sounds that were being used in progressive house. And by 2003, like everybody had them. So like all of the crappy 90s 2000 sound got chased out of the records, and 03 is kind of like in its prime, in my opinion. That's like the banger year for progressive house. So Dave Gahan, Dirty Sticky Floor. I mean, Depeche Mode. Can you think of any bad Depeche Mode remixes? It's like they're all good. It's just like, to what extent are they good? And I think a lot of that has to do with Dave Gahan's voice. The other part of it is that Depeche Mode makes synth pop, which translates very well into house music and progressive house. But Dirty Sticky Floors to me was a kind of like a little sneak attack. I wouldn't have found this if it weren't for the YouTube algorithm, and I listened to it. I mean, right in the intro, very, very punchy, kind of like peak hour, kind of rolling vibe to it. And the track, just with its punchy dark nature, is good enough as is, but where it really opens up and where it kind of caught me by surprise is like the trance. It's almost like a trancey guitar. I know it's not really guitar, but it's almost like a trance guitar lead synth that comes in right at the end of the record, and it's like the record was already a 4-star record, and then you put that lead in there, and now it jacks it up to like a 4.5 on my meter for me. So really quiet record. I mean, look how old. One of the things I love about these old records is like how like cheesy these hype stickers are. Like it's just so basic. I don't know, like I adore that. I love the hype sticker with like the faded letters. Like this was probably a deeper orange or red, and now that it's 22 years old, it's looking kind of like beat up, but I love it. Really like a sneak classic here, the Lexicon Avenue remix of Dirty Sticky Floors. Next up is another huge sleeper remix, and I bet if I put a survey up, I would bet 3/4 of the people watching this episode don't even know this. And yeah, don't be insulted if you don't. I'm just like, I've never heard anybody mention this at all. This is East West Connections High on Life with a Lexicon Avenue remix. And High on Life is a house track. There's a male vocalist on here. Let's see, his name is Daniel Vacchio. So it's a house record being remixed by a progressive house trio. And the first thing that I thought when I heard this is like, this is a Tenaglia record. Not that it sounds, I mean, I guess it kind of sounds like Tenaglia could have made it. I mean, think of Tenaglia's biggest bombs like Be Yourself, Elements, Bottom Heavy. That big room house sound is all encapsulated in here. Huge drums, and as you get to the mid section and the latter section of the track, this is one of those 3 steps up, 1 big step down, 3 steps up, 1 big step down. So it's kind of like that ever rising, ever evolving progressive house sound. And it's one of those tracks that as it builds, you can literally get carried away by it on the dance floor. You feel like you're being like lifted up and energized by it. So I think maybe a total sleeper hit. The first time that I listened to this, it knocked my socks off. Like, I vaguely skimmed through it on YouTube. I bought it quickly on Discogs, went about my business. Came back and listened to it one time, like with all the lights turned off in here and my DJ lights on, and it really took me to another world. So I hope you enjoy this. My third pick for you, I don't have as much to say about this one, but I don't want that to come off as like a shot at the quality of it. I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to feature it. I wanted to feature it because it's on NRK, and NRK to me, I mean, it's a house and tech house label, but it's very West Coast. I mean, even if you look at the art, right, this is all like a very San Fran daytime Cali vibe. If just everything about it says California. And this is the remixes of Nick Holder, Inside Your Soul. Nick Holder's Inside Your Soul track came out in 1999, and my God, it appears on so many NRK records. It's crazy. If you just type in Nick Holder, Inside Your Soul, I mean, it'll like fill up the guest list, the guessing list, the Did You Mean This on Discogs. And I just thought it was interesting in the fact that, like I said, it's on NRK, and here you have progressive house. Like, they went a little bit outside of their realm. Like, I put another way, there are very few progressive house tracks in my NRK catalog, and I probably have about 10 or 15 of those records. I'm not saying they never go there. Sometimes they'll like delve into like dark tribal, but progressive house, not too much. So I thought this was really unique. This is a cheap record. This is probably the cheapest record that you can get in the episode. You're looking at anywhere from like, basically it's like a $5 record. The one thing that I think holds this record back slightly is I don't think the female vocal for Inside Your Soul has aged very well, or maybe it was never that good to begin with. And I mean, I'm just being honest. It's not bad, but it's like if it were just a little bit better, I think this could be like a 4.5 star record. But I would maybe give it a solid 4, taking into consideration that the vocal's just a little bit lame. But I really like the drum work in here, and it's almost like I was saying earlier, if Lexicon Avenue had to fuse as closely as they could with tech house, but not getting into tech house, this would be it.
Do you see me the way I see you? Look at me now. Do you need me like I need you? But it's not right for me to be there, and it's not right for me to care. want to be with you. Want what we had. Remember touching you and holding you. I want it so bad. Inside your soul. Inside your soul. Inside your soul. Inside your soul.
I don't know how you progressive house heads out there feel about Audio Therapy, Dave Seaman's label. I've always had sort of mixed feelings on it. I'll give them props. Their label art is nice, and I've never had any questions or doubts about their pressings. Like if you get a nice Near Mint or VG Plus Audio Therapy record, you can trust that it's going to sound good. I think the reason that I'm dubious on the label as a whole is as you move towards the latter portion of their catalog, like once you get into like 05, 06, maybe they might have still been releasing in 07. I thought it just kind of, I think it fell captive to some of the electro influences, and I don't have very high regard for a lot of their later releases. But interestingly, I do have a high regard for this. So this is a stone cold classic, I would say, in the progressive world. This is Phil K and Habersham's Cloud Break, and just seeing like Habersham's, I could be totally, I'm probably destroying that guy's name. Maybe that's how it's pronounced, but if it's not, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I used to have a lot of his records. I mean, he was kind of like the producer for progressive house DJs to collect back in the day. So like even just seeing his name in print to me is very nostalgic of like 06 and 07 when I was buying up his records anytime I saw his name on them. Cloud Break is huge. I think if you played this, like if you had a progressive house themed party and you were doing a classics night, as soon as those tribal drums start to hit, I think all of the DJs that have this record would know it right away, because it's just such like a distinct clunking, plunking tribal rhythm that I think it's like it gives away the track right in the beginning. But I mean, this is the epitome of the deep, brooding progressive house bass line that, I mean, let's call it what it is. This was for people that were rolling. I mean, that's really what it was about, man. And that there's something about that bass line that lights up a crowd. I don't know if it's like because it makes people's skin vibrate or something, but when you take that dark brooding bass line and you move the notes around, it's like it just controls the room. So this is like a 9-minute monster that I think will stand the test of time. I mean, sometimes I think about what's going to happen when all the progressive house heads that are like my age, like let's say in their 40s and 50s, when we're all gone, like what's going to happen to all this music, man? Is it just going to be forgotten? Is it going to be so old that it's irrelevant? I hope not. I hope that somehow that this torch of this sound gets carried on into the future, because I think the future would be better off with it. fifth and final pick. Got to save the best for last, right? You can probably guess it. Depeche Mode, Only When I Lose Myself. Absolutely massive Lexicon Avenue remix. I think their most popular ever, and that's why I saved it for last. This track is like, I'm in Pennsylvania, right? I know Jersey people, I know New York people that are still DJs, and they're in their 40s and early 50s now. And whenever somebody had a house party and a DJ was playing, they dropped this. I heard it played out at clubs. I mean, this was like the secret weapon white label to have. And maybe you didn't have it on vinyl, but you at least had like the digital version of it, because it was just such a beast. And speaking of the vinyl, you can see that like somebody, I really want to thank the guy that wrote all over this. I mean, yeah, gee, thanks, man. Like, I guess it's not bad. I guess his like artistic handwriting's pretty cool. It could be worse, but I probably paid $80 for this, even with the writing on it. I was like, screw it, I don't care. There's at least 3 versions of this floating around, and I think there might even be 2 slightly different arranged versions. Like one's like 7 minutes and 30 seconds, and one's a little bit like 8 minutes and 30 seconds or something like that. But I'm pretty sure they're both very similar, maybe with like different intros and outros, and that's about it. But on this version, I played this so much that like I have the intro, like I have the beat counts memorized, and when I play it, I'm very deliberate about. There's a point in this record where that brooding bass that I was describing just a second ago, just that deep prog bass that everybody likes, where it drops, and if you time that drop correctly, you can make yourself sound like a musical genius to anybody that you're playing to. But you have to know where that is, and like how many kicks and how many, like where the drum patterns sit and how long you have to wait for that to come. But when it does, right, maybe you can have the bass cut and you drop it all the way back in and just blow the room up. But absolutely huge. YouTube algorithm glommed onto this and blew it up, sent it high into the sky. I think it's got like 1 or 2 million views on it. So that's why this record costs $80 now. This used to be a $5 record, and nobody wanted it. For a very long time, you could get this for dirt cheap, and you can entirely blame YouTube, in my opinion, because the algorithm is pitching it to people. It's that good. It's probably appealing to people that don't even necessarily like progressive house, and then they're going on Discogs saying they want a copy, and there you are. It's like, you know, the high bid is like 125 or something like that if you want a near mint. So absolutely massive. Highly recommended. You got to have it, even if it costs a little bit. Just wait for a VG Plus to come up from a good seller and pull the trigger on that. Alright, so that's all I have for my Lexicon Avenue Greatest Hits. I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to make some recommendations down below in the comments section. I'm that guy pointing down to the comments section. Please comment and just say anything. It's really nice to hear from you all, and I wish you the best. I hope you enjoyed this. Take care.